everyone, welcome to the Crafty Pixie channel where we do sewing projects and subscription boxes. I'm Bee. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is great to have you. I see you. You guys are awesome. I hope that you are all doing well and that you're staying positive as much as you can and taking it one day at a time. It's really all that we can do now. But in today's video, I have a huge project. Ta-da! It is the Dallas Duffel from Swoon Patterns. There are 3 sizes, a small, a medium, and then the large. This is huge. It's for my oldest. She's now in a sparring class, and she has a bunch of gear and she needed a bag, so here we go. It's really nice. It's got a nice zipper pocket here. Goes pretty deep in there. There is an option to have another pocket on the inside of the bag, but I didn't give her one. She only needs the one on the outside for like her mouth guard and maybe a water bottle or something like that. The exterior is duck canvas. The lining is waterproof canvas. Be a little bit careful if you're going to use waterproof canvas especially when you're doing the sides. There are some curves, and waterproof canvas is not as forgiving as cotton, but it came out just fine. If you are worried about your lining having any puckering or anything like that, then do not use waterproof canvas. If you don't mind because it's lining and really no one's going to see it, then by all means you're good. So it's got some nice straps. I did use webbing, and then it has a shoulder strap where I used webbing. If you can't get webbing the correct size, you can always use belting as well. That's really nice. Not too difficult. You've got a drop-in lining here. A little bit tricky to sew in, but it's really not bad at all. So this, like I said, is the large size. And it literally holds everything she needs plus a little bit more. So it's a great little bag to have for her. So I'm going to walk you through that and, take you step by step, except for putting like piping, because I didn't put any piping. She didn't want any. And I didn't put a pocket on the inside. But other than that, everything else is still the same. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you know when I upload every week. Leave a comment in the comment section, especially if you are a new subscriber. I would love to hear from you. Please also share the video. I cannot continue to grow and do well without you sharing the videos as well. It helps a lot. And give the video a thumbs up. All right, so without any further ado, let's get some materials and escape for a while. This is a big project, so I'm going to try to show you as much as I possibly can. The whole thing is probably not going to fit in the frame, but I can at least show you what I'm doing. So for materials, you're going to need your exterior fabric. I have all of the pieces out here. I mean, this is a huge bag. I'm making the large version of this, and then I've got the interior. I am using waterproof canvas, so I do not have any interfacing at all. You can put some woven interfacing or fusible fleece on your exterior, but if you're using waterproof canvas, you don't have to. This is duck canvas, so this is already stiffer than cotton along with this, so I think she'll be fine for the project, for using it what she's going to be using it for. And then you have your Peltex stabilizer for the bottom of the bag. Again, there's 3 sizes to this bag. I am making the large one. So that's it for materials. I am only doing the exterior pocket. I'm not doing the lining pocket for this bag. She's not going to need it. So I just cut out the piece for the zipper on the outside. And then for the rest of the materials, all right, for this, we're going to need our long bag zipper, 20 inches long. This is a sport zipper, so this is designed for the constant wear and tear of sport bags or anything like that. Then I've got the pocket zipper. This is longer than in the pattern. I will cut it down. Then you're going to need your 1-inch belting. You're going to need your 1.5-inch belting. You're going to need your inch and a half swivel hooks, an 1.5-inch adjustable hardware, and then you're going to need an 1 or 2-inch D-rings. I'm going to probably have to use some double-sided tape for the zipper at some point, clips or pins, scissors, always good to have a seam ripper, a ruler, and some marking tools of different kinds for when we need to mark something, whether it's on the interior or the exterior of the bag. It could change what I'm using. So I've got a chalk marking tool, and then I've got my air erasing marking tool. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so for the first step we're going to do is we're taking one of the exterior main panels and flipping it right side down. Now your longer edges are on the top and bottom, your shorter edges are on your right and left. And basically, depending on what size bag you're doing, you're going to make a box that is the appropriate length in on the top and side, as well as the appropriate length and width. I can't share the information because it's not my pattern, of course, but I went ahead and drew it for you so that you can see what it looks like. So here's the top, our marking, and then here's the bottom of the fabric as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this. So we are looking at the right side of the fabric, and we're going to take our exterior pocket piece and lay that right side down so that you have both right side of your pocket and right side of the exterior facing. And we're going to align it per the measurements on the pattern. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'll be right back. All right, so I went ahead and aligned it per the measurements on this side. I went ahead and put some pins in because no one's gonna see this in the end. So if there's a couple holes in the waterproof canvas, it'll be okay. Next, we're going to flip this back to the wrong side. And a great way to tell is that none of your pins are in the rectangle that you made, and then you can feel where the edge of the fabric is, so you're good. All right, now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew at a 2.5 millimeter stitch length right across the lines, the marked lines that we just made. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. With the pocket sewn in place, you're going to go ahead and from 1/2 of an inch in from the edge of your stitching, you're going to mark a little line, and then you're going to make a V from one corner of the stitching to the other corner of the stitching on both sides. And then if it's helpful for you, you can go ahead and mark a center line. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our seam ripper, and very carefully we're going to rip through all of the layers of fabric right on the line that we drew, just like so, to start a hole for you. Then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut this center line all the way to where the V starts. We're just going to come right across like so, right to the V, and then we're going to cut the V right up to these stitches. Do not cut into the stitches. You're just going to cut right up to them. Get as close as you can without cutting the stitches. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So just cut your way through. You're cutting through the exterior and your pocket, just like so. When you get to the V, cut to the edge. Do not cut the stitches. Just like so. So you've got, you know, little V flaps over here and everything. Now, we're going to pull our pocket through the hole we made, so that you will have wrong side to wrong side. It's a little bit harder with waterproof canvas, but it can be done. Just like so. Now you're gonna have we're gonna make the hole nice now. I'm gonna roll it so that the pocket stays where the pocket goes and the lining stays where the lining goes, or where the exterior stays where the exterior goes. Just like that. You can take this over to the sewing machine and press this to make it nice and flat. If you're using waterproof canvas, you're going to want to press this on the exterior side, not the canvas side. Right now I'm just going to put a few clips in so it doesn't move when we're doing the rest of the side and the top. Just like that. And we're just going to, and now the sides of your pockets should be nice and smooth. If it's a little bit ripply, you're going to want to just cut just a little bit further onto, just don't cut through the stitching. Okay, I'm going to iron this and finish rolling it out and everything. I will be right back. Now what we're going to do is attach the zipper to the pocket. So what I went ahead and did is I put some double-sided tape on. It is washable. And we're going to take our zipper. Yes, my zipper is long than it is supposed to be. That is fine. We can always cut it down in the end. So what we're going to do is when the zipper is closed, your zipper pull is going to be against the top of the bag. Okay, so we're going to lay it down this way, like this. Make sure you can see. There we go. Like so. Okay. So I'm going to remove the double-sided tape on the top. The double-sided tape doesn't really like the waterproof canvas all too much. So this isn't a permanent hold. You definitely want to, you know, attach this with the double-sided tape and then take it right to the sewing machine so that it doesn't lose any of its stick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this flat. I'm gonna lay our pocket right on top. Right, like so. Make sure that we're in place with the zipper pull. We're just going to press that flat. Now if you're using waterproof canvas, when you sew the top stitch on, it's going to help stick, you know, help flatten everything out for you. So that's good. I'm giving it a good press there. If you want to stick a few pins in here, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And then I'm just going to flip it, hold it, flip it over again, and take off the bottom so that we can stick the bottom to it. Come on. There we go. And we're just going to fit it like so. Because when we top stitch this, we want to make sure that the zipper catches in the stitch. Okay, and you're going to need to use a zipper foot for this. So I'm going to go ahead to the sewing machine, and with a 3mm stitch length with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm just going to sew all the way around the edge. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end, and then give this a press. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be right back. All right, that is sewn and pressed. This is what you should be looking at. Now we're going to flip it to the wrong side. And you should have the right side of your fabric now facing up towards you. And we're going to fold this and match up the top raw edge, which is the shorter end of the pocket, and the longer side edges. Line them all up. Now you're going to clip these together. Make sure everything is aligned. You don't want any wonkiness with this. Now if you're going to be doing the lining pocket as well, then you're going to repeat everything we just did, but onto the lining fabric. All right, we're just clipping. This is such a big project, but it will be worth it in the end. All right, now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew a 1/2 of an inch seam allowance, starting at one end, backstitch at the beginning and the end really well. We're going to come up, across, and back down. Now, when you do this, you're going to want to do it from the top side. So you're going to want to fold your main exterior panel in as you sew so that you keep it out of the way all the way around. You know, just move it as you go so that nothing gets caught. When you are done, trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, and I will be right back. For this next step, you're going to want to pay really close attention to the directions, because the measurements and placement and things like that are a little bit different for each size. So just bear that in mind when you are doing this. What we're going to do now is we're going to attach the like handles to the bag. So basically, per the directions, you're going to measure in and draw a line all the way up depending on the size of your bag that you are doing. And you're going to cut your webbing to the appropriate length per the size of your bag, per the pattern. So once you do that, you're going to take it so that the right side is facing up. And you've got your two lines. I don't know if you can see them, but we're going to start on the right side. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay the webbing down on the right side of your line that you just made. So the the finished edge of your webbing is going to lay to the right of your line. Okay, so we're going to lay it down, make sure it doesn't get tangled in any of these steps. You are going to lay the raw edge of your webbing with the raw edge of your bag, and these lines are running vertical so that your long edge is facing top and bottom and your shorter edges are left and right. So you're going to lay this down flat. You're going to have to use pins for this, or at least I find pins very helpful. And you're going to lay the raw edge down. You're going to lay the edge of the webbing right against the line you made. This is why a air erasing or chalk marking tool is good here. And we're going to pin all the way up. Make sure it stays flat. And I'm pinning right down the center so it doesn't get in the way when we're stitching. I don't have to, I already did the front of this, so you don't have to remove the pins if you don't have to until the end. Now when you're doing this to the front panel where the pocket is, you're going to need to move the pocket out of the way so that when you sew this down, you're not sewing through your pocket. Just keep pinning, make sure everything stays flat and straight. Don't bunch anything up as you go. Some of my pins have seen better days. Pin this one here. Now, depending on the size of your bag will depend on what the measurement is for this, but you're going to measure down from the top raw edge to the appropriate length said in the pattern. And we're going to make a line that we're going to sew across. Now when we sew across it, we're going to backstitch really, really well. We're going to backstitch really, really well over it to reinforce it, because this is where all of the pressure from holding it by the handles is going to be. I know you can't see that, but I can. So now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with 1/8 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew up the side. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Come across where we just made the mark, backstitch, come across again, and then 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way down the other side. When you are done with that, we're just going to repeat it on the other side with a slight difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. With that sewn in place, now we're going to do the left side. So when you are aligning the left side, we're going to align the right side of the webbing to the left side of the line that we made. And make sure you don't tangle your handle while you're doing this. You're going to align it the exact same way, right to the bottom, only this time we're doing it to the left of the mark we made, not to the right. Line it up just like before, make the same mark at the appropriate length down, and you're just going to sew once again the exact same way. The only difference is you're sewing on the left side of the line, not on the right side of the line. So I'm going to finish pinning this, go to the sewing machine, sew it. I'm going to press on the wrong side.
All 2010s on Amazon Music.
I'm going to press on the wrong side of the fabric so that we don't melt the webbing. Okay, so I'm going to go finish doing that, and I will be right back. All right, we've got our front panel with the zipper done and our back panel done. Now we can go ahead and put these to the side. Next, we're going to attach our accent strap to the side of the exterior. I went ahead and used the template for the pattern piece and marked our center line. I also went ahead and folded it and just clipped a teeny tiny bit on the edges. And then on the bottom of our accent strap, I went ahead and folded it and marked our center line. First, we're going to take our D-ring and we're going to loop it through, and we're going to bring this an inch down. Now you can eyeball it or you can make it exact. It's entirely up to you. Then we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and as close as you can, I would use a zipper foot for this, as close as you can, you're going to sew right across the bottom of the connector to seal your D-ring into place. I would sew across, backstitch, and then sew across again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really fast, and I will be right back. Next, we're going to take our accent webbing, accent piece, webbing, whatever, and we're going to center it right over the center line that we made, and we're going to line up the little notch or little marking that we made on our webbing and the notch that we made on the bottom. And we're just going to pin this into place. We're going to keep it straight, just like we did with the straps. This is the accent for the side of the bag, so you want to make sure that this isn't wonky, because it's going to draw attention. And this is used for your like shoulder strap, so you want to make sure that this is in place for when we do that. All right, so there's that. Now, just like with the handles, you're going to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. You're going to do a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way up the side, come across, backstitch, come across, 1/8 of an inch down, and end with a backstitch. So, and then when you're done, flip it over to the wrong side just so that you can press it and set that seam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. With that sewn, you're going to repeat the exact same thing to the other exterior side panel. And then you can set these to the side. All right, now we're going to start assembling, pretty much. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the two exterior panels, and on the top, we're going to pull the handles down and out of the way. If you want to pin them so that they don't move, you can do that. I'm just gonna pin them down so they stay secure, because you don't want these in anything that we're about to do on the top. Keep forgetting there's a pocket in that one. Pull down. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to lay the two panels right sides together. You may have to do a little bit of fiddling because there's a lot of stuff on these two panels now. If they're not completely even, it's okay. Mine's a little bit off. It happens a lot when I have to hand stitch. Or not hand stitch, but like measure and cut. What we're going to do is we're going to mark a line that is 1/2 of an inch in from the outer edge. Mark a good line so you can see that when you're sewing. We're going to pin this together. Now, when we take this over to the sewing machine, we're going to stitch at a, 1 inch seam allowance across the top of here. Now, when you do that, let me line everything up. Can't talk and line up, sorry. When you are using a 1 inch seam allowance. Now we are creating the top of the bag where the big zipper is. And when we do this, it seems more complicated than I feel it actually is. What we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. Oh, it's all... Okay, and between the end of our fabric and our 1/2 inch mark that we made, we're going to come across, back stitch all the way across, come across, back stitch all the way across again. You want to have a really good solid seam there. You're going to do that for the beginning and the first 1/2 inch and the last 1/2 inch that you're doing. Then in the center, you're going to do a basting stitch, so that's about 5 millimeter stitch length. So you're going to go 2.5 at the edge, or edges and 5 millimeters in the center. And do not backstitch when you do the basting. That is simply going to create kind of a invisible zipper for the top, kind of. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew that, and I will be right back. All right, with that seam done, I went ahead and you're going to need to press this open flat, and you're going to need to grab your zipper and some double-sided wash away tape, because we're going to attach it to the wrong side of the fabric, but we're going to be sewing through the correct side of the fabric, and we're going to be sewing blind. So you definitely want to make sure you have some double-sided tape. You can use a little bit of fabric glue if you want. I am using a zipper that is longer than required, and I think that's going to work in my favor. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to center the zipper teeth right over our seam that we just made. Okay, so we're going to, on the correct side of the zipper, so the zipper pulls are facing up. I just actually realized that this is a double-sided zipper. Okay, like a 2 zipper pull zipper. Didn't realize that when I got it. But what we're going to do is we're going to lay down double-sided tape right along the edge of the zipper. Right along the edge. We don't want this tape showing through when we open the center. So you want it right against the edge. I mean, this will wash away, but you don't want it potentially gunking up your needle or anything like that. If you want to just use straight clips, by all means, go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to stick it to both sides. Okay, with the paper off, now what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this sideways. We still have the handles pinned out of place and everything. What we're going to do is we're going to lay our zipper dead center. Right over your center zip line. Now with the sticky tape, it's very easy to unstick and do it again. And with the zipper tape or zipper, being longer than what we're attaching it to, your zipper tab is going to be out of the way, and we can actually take care of it so you don't have to constantly try to pull and not see what you're doing. Okay, so now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and on the right side of the fabric we're going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides all the way down your center mark. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go do that, fingers crossed, and I'll be right back. All right, with the zipper sewn into place, I went ahead and cut my long edges, and then on the front, this pocket, okay. And then on the front, I went ahead and just used a seam ripper and took out the stitches that we had basted into place. So basically you just take your seam ripper and rip it gently right across. Do not cut into the stitches where the 1/2 inch at the sides are. Now we're going to start really putting this together. So we're going to take our exterior and place them right sides together. You're going to line up all of your edges, and we're going to clip the bottom into place. Like so. You want to give yourself, enough clips to make sure that this doesn't shift too much. There's a lot of pieces involved, with the straps for the handles and everything like that. You don't need anything shifting because of that. All right, just like that. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, we're going to sew across the bottom. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end, 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Once you're done, go ahead and cut your seam allowance down to about 1/8 inch. And then after that, we are going to repeat this process and the process we did here before we installed the zipper. So the back stitching really well for the 1/2 inch, and then the basting in the center. You're going to repeat those steps for the lining. You're not going to be attaching a zipper, you're just doing it so we've got the opening to put together in the end, the exterior and the interior. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine, do this, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the lining, and I will be right back. Now we're going to attach the side panels to our exterior. So basically I went ahead and did it because it's really time consuming to clip it and really boring if you watch it on camera. So I went ahead and did them. But basically you're going to line up the center markings that we made on our side panel with the center zipper and the center bottom seam. Before you do clip both sides, make sure you open the zipper at least halfway. That way you can reach inside and you're not stuck fighting with the zipper to get it out. And then basically you're going to sew around both sides at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, 2.5 millimeter stitch length. When you are sewing, go slow. It's not a race. It will look way worse if you go fast and mess up. The main thing here, since you're dealing with some curves and fitting a larger piece onto a bit of a smaller piece, is you don't want any bunching. You don't want any creasing or anything in the fabric on the exterior. On the lining, no one's gonna see it, so you're okay. You don't really have to worry about it. You can if you want to. If you are using waterproof canvas, it is not going to maneuver like duck canvas or quilt cotton will. So keep that in mind. It is a little bit harder to do the lining if you're doing duck canvas. But other than that, you'll be good to go. Like I said, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. And I am also going to, where our zipper is, I'm going to backstitch over that a few times just to reinforce that for when we're done and we're opening the bag and everything like that. You're going to do the exact same step to the lining, but with the lining, you're going to want to rip your basting stitches along the top. Here, I'll show you. This bag is huge. So basically, you just rip your basting stitches when you're done, but leave your 1/2 inch on the sides. And when you're sewing your edges, you're going to use a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance instead of the 1/2 inch for the exterior. We want the lining to be a little bit smaller, makes it a little bit easier to, get it in there and there's no bunching or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead, go to the sewing machine, do both sides of this, and then we will insert the lining and work on the shoulder strap, and we're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. That is done. I went ahead and turned it right side out, just making sure I didn't have any pleats or anything like that. And then I went ahead and put our stabilizer on the bottom. You definitely don't want to forget that. But now we're going to put this to the side, and we are going to work on our belt, our shoulder strap, I should say. So before we assemble the exterior and the lining together, I'm gonna take a break from those curves and work on the strap. So you're going to cut the strap to the appropriate length in the pattern, and you're going to take your slider, you're going to come up from the bottom and then back through onto the other side just like that, so it's hugging the strap. And you're going to be about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, so about right there. You can make it exact if you want, or you can eyeball it. It is entirely up to you. There we go. I'm going to clip that into place. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with your presser foot, or not presser foot, your zipper foot attached on the sewing machine, you're going to want to stitch right along the edge right here. So come all the way down, back stitch, come all the way down, and probably back stitch again. That way it really secures it. If you've got rivets or anything, you can put a rivet there if you want to. But that strap right there should be good. And then I'm going to also come across here and stitch a few times here just so that it seals both ends. Gives it a little bit of extra reinforcement. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. With that done, now we're going to take it, make sure you've got the right side facing up. So the side that's got the end of the webbing is not the correct side. The side that's smooth is the correct side. We're going to take a swivel hook or a swivel clasp. We're going to slide that so that the actual clasp is on the right side of the webbing, like that. So when you look at it, you got the smooth side and the top of the webbing. Now we're going to take the other raw end, loop it through. Like so. Just like that. So you get one strap right there. Now we're going to take your other swivel hook, place that the same way so that the hook or the clasp is on the correct side of the belt, or webbing, belting. Fold that over to 3/4 of an inch to an inch. You can measure it or estimate. Good to go either way. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pin or clip it, go over to the sewing machine. We're going to sew as close to the clasp as possible. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew right at the edge as well. You can also make a box if you want to, and then the X through it to give it some more support. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll be right back. Okay, with that sewn in place, oops, the strap is done. Now I'm going to put this over to the side. And we're going to attach the lining to the exterior of the bag. Okay, so we're going to take our lining, and our exterior. Our exterior is right side out, and our lining is right side in, because when you look at the inside of a bag, the lining is there. Now I already went ahead and put in our stabilizer right here. So now we just shove the interior in. Watch out for the pocket. You don't want to tangle it into anything, any funny shapes or anything like that. Okay. Voila! Look at that! Alright. Now I've never attached an interior like this, but I am very intrigued. I think they call it the drop-in method. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that. But what we're going to do is we're going to attach with clips our lining to our exterior. Now you can do it so that the fabric is over your zipper a little bit, so that when you close it, you don't really see your zipper. So you kind of want to mimic that on the inside. So when you're clipping into place, you want to kind of sandwich it just like that. And clip. Definitely going to want to use your zipper foot for this, for sure. I'm putting a lot of clips in because I want to make sure that this doesn't shift at all when we're doing this. Okay, we're going to do both sides. And then once we're done, we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we are going to sew over the stitching we already have for when we installed the zipper to the exterior. Now, when you want to start as close to the edge as possible, because you don't want any gaps between the exterior and the lining. You want to make sure that they're all nice and flush. If for some reason you can't get all the way to the end, you can hand stitch this together and closed. Okay, so I'm going to finish pinning everything, take it over to the sewing machine. 3mm stitch length. I'm going to sew both sides and then you're done. So let me go ahead and do that and I will be right back. Once you have attached the shoulder strap, you are done. I hope you enjoyed this project. Leave a comment in the comment section, give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to share. Until next time, see ya.